Hello, and welcome to the Vlogging Pod. Tonight, we are joined by Robert Wolf.
Hey.
Welcome
Hi.
to the room, Robert. How are you this evening?
I'm well, fortunately. Through the grace of God, I'm okay. Thank you.
Well, awesome. That's wonderful. I got a little snow on the ground today, but I hear it's supposed to warm back up again, so we're going to be dealing with the slush.
It's cold here too in Florida. It's in the 50s last night, so
Oh,
freezing.
50s. Oh,
Yeah,
and it was 30s here last night, so yeah, I feel you. I feel your pain.
I did my dues. Half my life in Michigan, half my life in New England. I've done my dues. 5 years in Florida now, so
5 years.
I've done my frozen, my driving in the blizzards,
Oh,
shoveling feet and feet and feet of snow, making igloos. I've done my dues.
I
So
feel you. I feel you.
come, come,
I'm still there, so I feel you really hard.
come on down. Come on down.
I've traveled there quite often, actually. I love Florida. I really do.
Yeah, except the traffic. It's a wonderful place. It's got a lot of good stuff. It's a little bit expensive now. Insurance is
Yeah.
going up a little bit. Other than that, it's a great. While we're still, who knows? It's a pistol shaped state, right? So one of these days, if there's a big enough sinkhole, it's just gonna, the handle will just fall into the ocean, and we'll have to move to
Well,
Tallahassee to be above
let's hope
water. God forbid.
let's hope that's completely after our existence on this
Yeah, hopefully
planet.
never, but yeah, and hopefully never.
Hopefully, no. Yes. Now, Robert, I want to dive right into to you personally for a second before we get into the written pages. There's a big hint to our listeners. You are a neuroradiologist professionally, correct?
That is right. That's correct.
Awesome. Can you tell our listeners what that has to do with, just so that they have an understanding of your profession?
Well, I've been in radiology for 35 years. I've been part-time for about 18 years. I've done a mixed bag of things. Neuroradiology is a subspecialty of general radiology, which I still do a little bit of general radiology, X-ray and ultrasound. But radiology encompasses a wide thing. It's mammography, it's ultrasound, gastrointestinal, genitourinary. Neuro is brain, spine, head and neck, it's that kind of thing, and it's a wonderful subspecialty if you're into the neurosciences. The brain, and it's still evolving. They're imaging, dementia and this and that. They're doing
Mhm.
things that PET scans. They're doing stuff that I was never trained with, but I've read a lot of MRIs over the years, a lot of CT scans, X-rays, plain films, you name it, nuclear medicine studies. And then PET scan is one of the more recent mostly for cancer staging, but it has its place in neuroradiology too. People that read a lot of head and neck CT or MRI also need to be able to read PET scans, because if you're trying to figure out whether lymph nodes abnormal, for example, if somebody's got a head and neck cancer and is a lymph node involved, that kind of thing, it's tough. It's always evolving. It's a technologically, it's one of the best specialties, I think. But I can't speak for GI or surgery or ER or whatever. But I loved anatomy as a kid. I loved anatomy as a med student, and that was the thing for me. And I liked neuroanatomy, and so I found my niche. It took a while, but happy to do it. I don't think if I had to go back 30 years, I'd probably do the same thing. Very
Hmm.
fortunate. Very fortunate. Michigan Medical School, Brown,
Mhm.
Brown for radiology, Brown University, and Yale for neuroradiology. And they wanted me to stay on and do neurointerventional, which is a whole other ballgame. Very, very difficult subspecialty. It just wasn't for me. I was already 30 years old, and I've been an indentured servant long enough, so it was time to make a living. But I was very honored. They asked me to stay on and be a neurointerventional fellow, and that would have been a whole different career path. But happy where I'm at. General radiology, neuroradiology is the way to go, at least for me.
Mhm. That's impressive.
Well,
I
thank you.
mean,
I
that
don't
really
know.
is. That's impressive.
You do your best.
Well, I
It's a
just
lot of
had
hard work.
X-rays
It's a
done
lot of
just this
sweat.
last. Yeah.
I'm
I just
sorry to
had
hear that.
X-rays done last
If you
week,
want to send
so
them, if
well.
you want to send them down, you got to get a copy of the disc. Happy to look at them for you and tell you what I think. I say that.
Now
I do say
now
it
you
all the time.
now you
Yeah.
tell me after I paid $400 after my copay.
Well, tell me about it. That's another hour discussion. Oh my God, I've had some health issues this year myself, and the
Yeah.
insurance companies. this poor guy getting killed, the UNH guy, the
Oh,
CEO.
yes.
I understand the anger. I don't think it's justified.
Mm.
Murder is never justified, and we can
No,
talk about that
no.
for another hour. But no, but I understand the anger because insurance companies have really
Yes.
changed the way. But you can get a freebie. I mean, I'm happy to. I do it all the time. I do a lot of pro bono. So if you can get the disc, send down the
Uh,
images. I'm happy to look at it for you. That's
Oh, I
I do it all
appreciate
the
that.
time.
Actually, mine were okay. They actually, I just had a. Now we're going to turn this into a health show. Um,
We can do more than one
I
podcast if you want. It doesn't have to be just one. We can talk about
oh no,
sports or
it
music.
doesn't. You're right. I we could collab. There we go.
It's all good. I haven't been a host yet, but one host was very nice to me and said, Rob, you'd have made a great host. So, and you called me a
Well,
co-host too. So I like when people say that you're kind of a
yeah. Well,
good co-host.
you could do it.
I
I
appreciate
mean,
that.
you have MD on the back of your name as well, and I'm sure you could dive deeper into speaking with other people in the fields of other variations of medical. So yeah, I will listen. You'd send me a link, I'll listen.
I'm not ready for that yet. And the hosts always say it's a lot of work. But I've been, when I was an intern, we had Framingham Jeopardy. So I was at the end of our internship year. We roasted everybody. I was Art Linklater. I mean, you're probably too young to know who he was. Later it was Alec Trebek, Jeopardy. And I had three
Yes, I
other
know him.
interns, and oh my God, we roasted everybody. We had a great time. And then when I was a senior resident at Rhode Island Hospital, I made sure I passed my boards first, and then we did the roast. I had three carousels. Remember carousels? They were the old. You had slides and carousels. Maybe you don't remember all that because we went
Oh
straight
yeah, I
to.
remember.
But three carousels of roasting, and so yeah. I mean, it's all a good. It was all a good fun. So, but normally as a host, I don't know. I'll leave it to you guys. Learn as I go, and podcasts are a great invention. I think podcasts are a good way to communicate, not have to spend a ton of money, meet a lot of people, and hopefully get your messages across. And it's a great way to go. So,
Well, I just looked up Art Linkletter and Canadian Board. Actually, I do recognize him. My mother lives in an apartment across from my She Shed Studios here, so and she watches a lot of this kind of stuff. So yeah, I do
I love it.
recognize
I
the
love it.
man. And I'm in my 50s, so I'm not that much younger than you.
All right. Okay. I got corns. I have corns that old. My grandkids aren't that old yet, but I've got a couple of stepdaughters. They're in their 40s. So you're not.
Oh, I'm older. I'm older than your stepdaughter. I'll be
you're-
52 this week.
oh, God bless you. Oh, this week. That's funny.
Yes.
I have a friend here. She turns 52 on December 15th. It's this Sunday.
Oh my gosh, really?
Yeah, that's the date. I
Because
mean,
mine is December 14th.
that's funny. So it'll be a good
Yeah, it
weekend.
is.
It'll be a good weekend. Come on down.
Yeah.
We'll celebrate. We'll do one big celebration.
Come down, bring your x-rays.
Yeah, why not? Yeah, the hard. If you can get hard copies, good luck with that. Back in the
Yeah,
day,
right.
imagine hanging all
Oh,
those films over the years. That's what we, talk about getting carpal tunnel, right? I mean,
well, how are you at CT scans? Because that's right after Christmas.
oh really? You got to go back. I'm good. I mean,
Yeah,
anything you want. I'm happy to look at it. And if I
yeah.
don't know, I got friends. I have friends who've got subspecialized musculoskeletal and
um,
mammography and this and that.
oh,
So
I wouldn't hit you up for that. I'm honored that you would think of me, though. I wouldn't hit you up for it. But no, I have to go
never a
back.
problem.
I've been having some issues in my lungs, and I just got an inhaler, a different one. I'm gonna have two of them, and I'm actually feeling
Asthma,
a little bit. I'm
asthma,
sorry.
asthma.
No,
Are you
and if it
non-smoker?
did, yeah, I am a non-smoker. I have done cigars in my youth, but not like a daily occurrence. It was more
Once in
like
a
around the
while.
camp, yeah, around the campfires and stuff.
I totally
Um,
understand. Been there, done that too.
yeah. Okay, well then you know what. Yeah, nice whiskey and a cigar. Yeah, that's me.
Yeah, for me, it's a little thinner than a cigar, but I get it. The
Yeah.
Cigarillos or whatever,
Yes.
I understand.
I
Anything you
get
put
you.
in your lungs, because people still
Oh
vape,
yeah.
and
Mhm.
vaping is not good in my estimation. From what I've heard about it, just because of that ethylene glycol in the oil, that's going in the lungs. So if you vape, don't.
Yeah.
Just do something else. If you're vaping marijuana, for example, do edibles instead. If that's your gig, and if it's
Yeah.
for tobacco, I don't know. They've got all kinds of substitutes, but if you want to live a little longer, I actually smoked back in the day about And I quit
Mhm.
about 6 or 7 years ago, and probably the best thing I could have
Mm.
done. Best thing
Oh,
I could have
yeah.
done. So, what is a
Yeah.
radiologist smoking for? You know how bad it is for you. How many types of cancer and heart disease and all
Well,
kinds of stuff. So,
we all have our vices. I feel ya. I
yeah,
feel ya.
no doubt about it. Yep, I got
Yeah.
you.
Well, I have to go back, but, he's basically saying the worst case scenario is that I'll be on a medication. He doesn't foresee any major things, so not to worry.
Well, that's good. Hopefully, it's not pulmonary fibrosis because that's the first thing I thought of. And my
Um,
former neighbor up north had that, and it's very debilitating. She's been around for many years, and I don't know what they're treating her with, maybe steroids. I'm not a
uh,
pulmonologist, but pulmonary fibrosis is more common in women, and it happens. It's not uncommon. Of course,
yeah.
asthma, bronchitis, COPD, emphysema, those are all common.
Well,
Allergic.
I don't have asthma, but it's similar to asthma.
I got you.
I have a wheezing on the intake, not the exhale, because my dad had COPD or similar to it, and he was on a BiPAP. I know this podcast is really going informative here.
No worries. No, no, no. It's all good. I mean, we could spend half an hour on the medicine and 5 minutes on the book, or we can talk about the book another time.
Well,
When you heard that,
you draw me in. You're very insightful, so I'm very intrigued. Very,
well,
very. I could
I'm
pick your
happy to
brain
help.
all night.
I'm happy to help you as much as I can. So,
I'm not fairly worried. I was in the beginning, but like I said, I just got the new inhaler yesterday, and I've only done it 3 times because I have to take it once in 2 puffs in the morning, 2 puffs at night, and again, I did it today, this morning. I still have to do my nightly dose, but it's an immense difference. I
okay,
mean,
good.
I can't explain it. I did today have a little bit of tightness
I got it.
and
I had my own thing this year. I had congestive heart failure and atrial
I'm sorry,
fibrillation
I lost
combined,
you.
and
What'd
I
you
was
say?
no, I had atrial fibrillation, congestive
Uh,
heart failure combined this year, and it was a
Are you
rough
with
three
us,
months.
Rob?
And yeah, yeah, I'm with you. I can
There
hear
you
you.
are. There you are. Okay.
Anyway, no, I know what it's like to be trapped in your own body because you can't breathe, and
Mm.
it's a very disheartening thing. It's something you're not used to. So it sounds like you're doing okay. If you like to
Yeah,
exercise, your exercise
I do.
tolerance, that's
I
important.
do.
As long as you got your exercise tolerance, and listen to what the doctor tells you, and you should be good.
Yeah, I do over 10,000 steps a day, sometimes 20 to 30, and I work out. I do weight training 3 days a week.
Ditto, ditto. Not as many on the steps and not as much weight
Mhm.
training because I've been a little bit ill this year with my own little things. But stay with it. That's
Uh,
good. Stay with it. No, I mean, it's
well,
you'll
it
be.
we lose muscle mass as we age, so it's good to do
That's called
some muscles to keep. Mhm.
sarcopenia. It's called, and then no doubt about it.
Yeah.
And especially the things I've been through, and they washed me out with diuretics and this and that, and I lost
Mm.
even more. But yeah, you will lose your muscle mass, your muscle weight over time. Short of anabolic steroids or whatever else they throw out at you, stay away from that stuff. Just stay in the weight room, eat right, and accept that you're going to get a little bit weaker over time. But as long as you carry your groceries and push loved ones in a wheelchair, God forbid, if you need
Mhm.
to, and instead of that kind of thing. Quality of life is everything. So
Oh, yeah.
quality
You
of
know,
life.
Robert, my father passed away 2 years ago, and my
I'm sorry to
mother
hear
lives
that.
with us. Oh, thank you. My mother lives with us since, and ever since then, I wanted to do more about aging. And if you're ever interested, and I'm dead serious on this, if you would like to do more than one segment where we talk in depth more about stuff to
I'd love
need
to.
to know, going through, I would love to have you back because this is turning a little bit more of a health topic, but I'm okay with it.
I am. I'm
But
62, and I can't speak for the
yeah.
people that are 80, and I'd be happy to make it
Mhm.
to 80. But yeah,
Yeah.
happy to. Yeah, I mean, yeah, we could talk about system by system, that kind of thing.
Mhm.
But yeah,
Yeah.
I'm happy to.
Well, let's hit me up. Let's talk a little bit more on Podmatch about that, and maybe we can look at the calendar. I'm a little until the summer months, I'm already kinda booked in session, but we
Not a
can break it
problem.
down.
Not
We
a
can break
problem.
it down and, see if you're interested. And if you're ever daring enough to do a podcast on your own, I would help you support it and push it out for you
Oh,
as
that's
much
so
as I
kind.
can.
That's so
Well, you're
kind.
welcome.
I'm not
Well,
ready
you're
for that.
welcome.
I'm not ready for that. And I just booked like 7 podcasts in the last week, so I'm busy
Well, you
too, which is a good thing.
go.
So
Awesome.
yeah, it's really Podmatch is wonderful. So there's
Yes,
no
it
doubt
is.
it's a great way, easy way to meet people and to do your thing. And let's see. I've been on for a year now, so it's working. I'm staying with it.
Well, awesome. We're going on 4 years for the podcast, and
Oh,
we've
God bless
been
you.
download almost over 4K times just on each podcast. Now that's just on Podbean. That doesn't include where we've been listening to like on iTunes and all that stuff. The 4K only comes from Podbean every time we're downloaded here on this site.
I got you. I'm
So
not familiar with Podbean. You guys got me to download it, and here we
there's some
are. I mean,
interesting
so
stuff. I'm
whatever.
hoping you enjoy it. Well,
Yeah,
so
I'll have
let
to.
me steer
You got to keep
this.
me in the loop.
Okay,
Go ahead.
I will definitely. So let me put this back just a little bit. So I know we kind of got off on subject, but you're so insightful, and I just love listening to you. But as an MD, and we already know how busy that is, and I know you said that you went to part time on that, but how do you manage to be able to be a neuroradiologist and also find time to write? How did that work out for you?
Well, I'll give you the history of the book. My mom and dad wrote his autobiography in the 70s. They
Hmm.
went from paper and pencil to typewriter. Remember what a typewriter is?
Oh gosh, yes.
To a computer. They printed up the text, and I read it once, 30 years ago. Didn't think much of it. But I remember his first escape.
Mm-hmm.
My dad was a 4-time escape artist, so we'll come back to that about the book too. But I remember his first escape the most. Didn't remember much about the rest of the book, and actually didn't care because family and career and this and that. So then dad died in 97. Unfortunately, my mom died in 2016. Unfortunately, I took another year to, well, when my mom died, a historian friend from my hometown, Mount Clemens, Michigan, famous for sulfur baths and Thomas Alva Edison. My mom passed, and then a historian friend handed me the disc of my dad's story and said, "You got to read
Mm-hmm.
this." And I didn't think much of it at the time, and I had to take care of my mom's affairs for a year. And then I retired for a year, so I did a little traveling. I decided to, just slow things down. And I've been part time for a while before that, anyway. There's definitely burnout in medicine. There's definitely burnout in being an author. But at that
Mm-hmm.
time, when I read the stories, I was, so actually, what happened was I was a year retired. 2018, a friend of mine asked me to help him read some X-rays and ultrasounds out of a clinic in Michigan, and I'm still doing that part time. And that brought me back to the book. As a radiologist, I've got a left screen and a right screen. The left screen is the queue of the patients, and the right
Mm-hmm.
screen are the images. So I did that, and then in between cases, on the left side was my dad's autobiography, and the right side I was dictating his autobiography into a biography, like almost word for word, except turning it from first person to third person. So now we're in 2019, whatever, and we queried a few agents and publishers and kind of struck out as kind of a dull, boring a biography because it was just dad did this, dad did this, dad was born here. So I queried. I had some beta reads done by other authors, and one of them, wonderful late Lisa Tenner, professional author, and she's written a few books, many award winning. And she hooked me up with Janice Harper, my co-author, and she redid the book. It was another year and change, and she really did her homework, helped me vet out agents and publishers, and we ended up getting Amsterdam publishers to literally bottom of the ninth, shoestring catch, because we were ready to go self publish. And there's nothing wrong with self publish, of course, but it's nice to be able to get standard publishing,
Mm-hmm.
traditional publishing, because then you can put your book in libraries and Barnes Noble and whatever that is. I suppose
Mm-hmm.
you could the otherwise. So anyway, and now for 2 years the book's been out, and we're it's called Not a Real Enemy: The True Story of a Hungarian Jewish Man's Fight for Freedom. It's a
Mm-hmm.
biography about my dad. He was a 4-time escape artist. He survived Nazi Hungary, communist Hungary. There's no sugarcoating in the book. What happened to his parents was not so pretty. His parents they perished while my dad was away at forced labor camp, and it took him months to find out what their whereabouts was and what happened to them after the war. A miracle how he found out by an eyewitness at Auschwitz what actually happened to them. My
Mm-hmm.
mom's grandfather was a rabbi. He also perished at Auschwitz. Real threats to
Mm-hmm.
society. My dad's father was a dentist, and before that, he was a captain on a ship, a Red Cross ship in World War I in the Black Sea. So, another real threat to society. But They after the World War One, the messages where there's the Red Terror in Hungary, there's the White Terror, and then there's Admiral Horthy, who was the World War One hero. He was in charge, and the Jews just all they could think of was it doesn't matter who was in charge. They always felt like they were threatened or they were second class
Right.
citizens. And then of course there was the rise of fascism in the 30s and 40s, and we're seeing a little bit of that now. Not
Oh,
necessarily about
yeah.
fascism, but we'll call it radical Islam. But the
Mm,
fuel is fired with people that are skinheads and white supremacists and
yes.
whatever the hell they're doing in Australia and Europe and even
Mm.
here in the U.S. It's ridiculous. So my parents wrote this like they knew I would redo the story. I'm not a professional writer, but now I'm a professional writer. It's been kind of assigned to me, and they
Yeah.
did it like they knew that I would redo this and redo the story. And don't you hate it when your parents are right? I mean, it's just
Yes.
and
Yes, I
posting the
do.
thing. I do have a few regrets. Like if I had done this before they had passed away, I could ask more questions. And I
Mhm.
can hear my mom with her Hungarian accent saying, "You couldn't do this while we were still alive," with the Jewish guilt. But hey, mom, at least I did it. So the book's won 4 awards, which is I don't even know what to do with that. I think it's a very it's an honor. It hasn't really. I'm not the type of guy to slap myself on the back. I owe a lot of it to my team. The book cover and people helping me with social media, and of course my co-author and publisher. But
Mhm.
4 awards is like wow. All right, so people realize it's a good quality book, and that what we're doing is important. But it doesn't mean anything if it doesn't help me sell books in the setting of trying to help fight anti-Semitism. If that makes sense. So
Right.
I'm doing a lot of podcasts, TV interviews, book presentations, that kind of thing, 100 and counting, and you're part of it, and I appreciate that. Just helping me fight hate, and
Yes.
the message was clear in the book. When I saw this, I couldn't just leave the
Mhm.
story on a computer on a disc. I had to get it out and share it with the world, and here we are. So hopefully someday it could be a movie, I suppose. A lot of people say, your dad's had before escapes. Come on, and 20 miracles. I mean, the way he got into med school, the way he found out what happened to his parents. Little
Yeah.
teaser, he missed an escape and under communist Hungary, he went to the wrong train station. He
Mm.
felt like the unluckiest guy in the world. Everybody who made the right train, the right station, got arrested, including his medical
Mhm.
school roommate. So, I mean, the luck on this guy, right? I mean,
Yeah.
the luck of the Irish, we'll call it the luck of the Jewish. But I'd like to say it's the good hand of God, and I guess because and my parents were not that religious. My mom more than my dad, but when they end up getting settled in Michigan, we had an Orthodox temple where I was trained for my bar mitzvah. I went to Hebrew school and blah blah
Right.
blah. That kind of got downgraded. They changed synagogues. Long story, but I was one of the last bar mitzvahs at this Orthodox synagogue. It was the only synagogue in Macomb County in Michigan. So lucky me, old school. I can still smell the wood. The old wood. It's a beautiful, and I have a stained glass. It was 1909. This was built. I have a stained glass window. They distributed it to the regular congregants when they tore down the
Oh,
synagogue,
wow.
and I still have that. And that's hopefully the kids and grandkids will keep it. It's a momentum. It's very special.
Mhm.
1909. I mean, literally stained glass lead windows. You can't find that anymore. So,
No, you can't. I
but
do have a nice piece of stained glass, but it's nothing old, but it's in my shed. It's huge. It's over there
beautiful.
hanging, but it's not the window itself. It's a
Well, you
round
got to
circle.
save
I
it.
love
No,
that.
it's if you love it, you save it. Give it to your kids, your grandkids when the time comes.
Yeah.
You're probably too young to have grandkids, but you never know. When I was 52, I think I had grandkids already through my
Did you?
yeah, not through my own. I never had kids. So by the way, I'm the only child of only children. So these are all
Mhm,
they're step kids and step grandkids. They're all
mhm.
Christian. They all support the book. Two of them have already been to the Holocaust Museum and sending me pictures of them holding the book, and then and telling the staff about me, which is really cool. And then a few months later, I'm at the U.S. Holocaust Museum in D.C. doing a book signing, and then I ended up doing two. So it was such an honor. I can't tell you what that means. It's just I could do that every day, talking to families and kids and educating about hate and genocide and all of that.
I
I could do that every day given the choice.
I think that's very important. Now, I made some questions, but based on your content, I'm gonna switch it around a little bit just from what
What
you've
you got to
told
do?
me. Oh, yeah. We gonna do it. Um, Now, when I first saw you on, we met through Podmatch, just so our listeners understand that, which is a like, kind of a network for podcasts and people who have a message or talking about some kind of content. In our case, we have a lot in common as far as books. I've written 15 actually.
Wow, good
So
for you. Wow, I'm
well,
impressed.
thanks. Well, don't judge me too great. You haven't read them.
Fair enough,
Anyway,
but that's a lot of work. That's believe me,
it is. It
one
is.
book's
It's a
enough.
passion.
Oh,
It's
good
a
for you.
passion.
Good for you.
Well, thank you. What spoke to me about your book, for our listeners, just in case you haven't seen, it is in the title. It is Not a Real Enemy, if you looked at the title of the room, by Robert Wolf. And your book, like you've pretty much said, is from that time from the 1930s to the 1945. And you make a very valid point. There are so much hate things that you would think that in our time that we should be past or beyond. And I think you make a very valuable a very contribution to a society in itself by bringing this book to more life and trying to talk to as many people as you can. Because I don't think a lot of generations the farther we get away from it, the farther we have family or someone who knows family or someone who had some kind of connection to times of the Holocaust or times of, you know what I mean, all this persecution as far as Jews and Jewish natured people that, you know what I mean? I think it just becomes very distant, as if it's not something that has become real. Does that make
Well,
sense?
well said. Well, and actually, the book covers. So the book's a biography of about my dad, of course, but it's also a history book. It covers Hungary from kind of like a Forrest Gump coverage. You know how the movie covers history light. So it's kind of the same way with Hungary
Mhm,
from World War One to the end of the Hungarian Revolution in '56. So we cover communist Hungary too. So
mhm,
for some countries and some people, when World War II was over, they were relieved, they were free, but not for my parents, not for the Hungarians, and the Czechoslovakians and the Polish. They were all
right.
still under the Iron Curtain for many, many years. So but you're right. We don't. Nobody talks about World War One. Nobody talks about the Civil War. Nobody talks about even Vietnam and Korea anymore. It's like
Mm,
these are forgotten entities. And amazing thing about my parents, no PTSD. They continued to educate about the Holocaust throughout their lives. But a lot of people don't have that. A lot of people get PTSD. Holocaust survivors, Vietnam vets, on and on and on. And I don't blame them. And there's no rhyme or reason. Some people just couldn't share their stories, which is sad because the more short stories that are shared, hopefully, the more people understand what hate does to families and people.
right.
And that's still my story. Is that we're lucky in this country. We take things for granted. I mean, politically, we've been a little divided, of course, or maybe a lot
Mhm.
divided. But at least we got to vote, right? At least we have
Well,
we get to talk on TV, we get to talk on the radio, we get to say how we feel, short of hate speech and whatever else is going on, which I'm fighting. But you know what I'm saying? I'm more of a love
yeah.
speech, and instead of this TikTok nonsense, and I'm sorry, I'm on four types of social media. I got, YouTube
Mhm.
channel and email and this and that. For a 62-year guy, 62-year-old, I'm overwhelmed by the technology of it. But but some of this nonsense, this false information, and
Mm.
I wish people would follow more of, the Martin Luther King and Moses
Yes.
and Gandhi and people that preach peace, and in many cases didn't get the message across before it was
Well,
too late.
even
So
even mainstream media does not shine a light on details. And I don't know how much people are aware of that, but I have now you talk about TikTok. I again, it depends on your algorithm, what you're actually looking at and what you show interest, what you put a like on, what you put a comment on. That's what seems more interesting. Now, if you follow me on social media, you may or may not, as far as our listeners and yourself. I post a lot of content late as of late about today's today's woes, and you could probably understand which way I lean on. And also, I have a couple of comments in the room I want to make sure I bring up, Rob. I just give me a second to voice
no
what I'm going to
problem.
say.
Well, I know I've connected with you even today. I posted today about our podcast, and
Yes, you
I know
did.
I think I connected you on at least two stations. But
Well, that's good. I'll make sure I hook up
yeah,
there so
no,
we can
no.
be linked.
Well, more
Um,
important, yeah, when it's out is the other thing. So I double
mhm,
post on most podcasts. I post the day that we do it, and I have a little
Mhm.
fun with it. Sometimes a little silly poem or whatever. Sometimes it's a serious poem, but whatever I think of, and it's not
Right.
like I'm sitting there. It's just kind of spontaneous. And then when you release the real thing, very short and sweet. Thank you very much. Here's where you find the book, and
Right.
post the podcast. And I know most people aren't going to listen to these. Most people aren't going to watch them. But you know what? If you accumulate enough over time, and people get to know you, then they will look back and see one or two. I've got a few friends that do that, that still watch my podcast, but I don't expect people to watch every. I've done this is my
I
72nd podcast. There's no way people are going to watch 70 podcasts. I'll just take
Right.
one or two, but the point's the same. It's just
Right.
different people, and all wonderful, by the way. The pod match thing has been great, yourself included.
Awesome. Well, thank you.
You made the
Well,
cut. You made the cut. You're replacing my
thank you very
lines.
much. So when you were talking about like the social media, and as far as like news and I find that a lot of the mainstream media now glazes over things. This is my personal assumption. Please don't come at me after you guys listening to the podcast. Don't come up in my comments.
You're
But
right.
this is just my own personal reception here on this perception, excuse me. Um, I find that a lot of mainstream media glazes over things or doesn't talk about points of interest. It's even when it comes to our last um, big thing that happened in November without coming out and saying it.
No, I
You at that
agree.
time,
I
yeah, at
agree.
that time we were hearing all the dirt and grit, and now it's like a glaze over it, like to make it all shine. And so when I look at TikTok in this sense, since you brought it up, um, I've seen other things pop up that people have done their own research on. And as far as legalities, legal things, things that are passed in our government, all these things can be found on the internet. And I love research. I absolutely adore it. So when I see something like that in someone else's content, I'll go and research it and see if it's actually real or see if I can't find it in mainstream media. But sometimes you can find those links because, now everyone has a website, everybody has a link to go back to NBC and all those big names. They still have a website. MSNBC is pretty good at keeping something. It might not be something that's on their airtime, but it might be on their website to have some kind of significance. So when I hear something in social media, I like to go research it before I repost it to make sure there is some factuality to it. And if there's some links even in the article that I find so that I can go deeper with it. But I think that's what's interesting about social media versus our regular media of today. Because there are so many voices, I think it brings more awareness, and even in the sense of where your book is, the more people that can hear this story, whether it's on this type of platform, TikTok, Facebook, Instagram, that voice carries things. So when you're talking to one individual, you're not just talking to me, but you're talking to whatever following I used to be on the X. I'm not on there anymore, but in that
Okay.
sense, I had over 10K. So I'm like I said, I'm not on there anymore, so don't judge me too harshly, but
No, no, not at all. No, I thought I
but
thought the X would have
yeah,
been a better platform for sales than it ended up being. And for me,
yeah,
LinkedIn for me is the best because
yeah,
it's most professional. I can network that way. I get more book talks and presentations that way. And I wish I spent more time on it, but I've divided between LinkedIn, X, Meta. So I'm trying to sound cool now. It's not Facebook,
yeah,
it's Meta.
yeah,
I got a
meta,
Meta author
yeah.
page, which is probably almost worthless. It's just Instagram
Oh,
crossed over. Uh, but
you
but I would give up all of those except for LinkedIn, except for Facebook, because I got a lot of friends going back to
yeah.
when Facebook really started. So, but
Threads is a good one. That's from Meta too, because that strings off of Instagram. But
it
Threads is
is.
a really good,
I
yeah.
should go that way, and I always got threads
Mhm.
waiting for me from Instagram, but it's a bunch of pretty women in scantily clad, and it's a distraction, but it's not. They're not going to buy my book, so.
Yeah,
But I'm still chasing Elizabeth Shue and Adrian Brody, and I haven't pitched Adam Sandler yet, but
yeah,
it's in my bucket list. I sent a copy to Spielberg. I sent a copy to the owner of Bob Kraft, who owns the New England
mhm,
Patriots. He's a big pro-Israel guy, and at
mhm.
least they responded to me. One kept the book, but
Do you know who you should talk to? Have
You,
you ever heard of Jill Zarin?
I haven't. I have not. But
Okay,
it,
Jill Zarin is on if you go on Instagram or you go on Facebook, I see her she used to be a well, I gotta think about this. New York Housewives, she was one of those.
okay.
And she's a Jewish woman. She has a good platform. She sells carpets. She's got her foot in on Target. She's got all kinds of things. She is very open when it came to Israel's conflicts and stuff.
Okay.
And she might be someone that would have like-minded interest.
Do you have a
Um,
connection with her? I mean, could you introduce us?
not a personal one, not a personal one. I wish, but I do not.
Well, when we're done, can you email me her name with the spelling, and I'll look
Well,
her up. I'd be
yes, yes, I
glad
will
to.
actually do better
And
than I will link you connections to her as far as what I have on social media. Like I said,
very
I don't have a personal connection, but from what I've seen of her content, she might be very good as far as
sounds
helping you
wonderful.
reach. She is very good about that. She's actually promoted other Jewish uh, musicians, actors,
Love it.
people with career
Love it.
sense.
Love it.
Yes, and she
Well,
was.
no, I love it. Recruiting Jewish people to understand and to help me fight what we're doing.
Mhm.
You think it would be easy, but it's not. It's not because if it's not affecting you, if you're not seeing the tanks and the trucks, can you imagine armored trucks and tanks,
No.
the Palestinian
Mhm.
flags, not Pal, but got the Gaza, the
Yeah.
Hamas, so whatever, not the Gazans, because they're going through a crisis too because of the small group. It's always one guy that ruins it for everybody. I always say,
Yes.
it's always
You know, you ever
Osama bin Laden and this and that,
if
and
you ever think about it, it's usually a small minority of, the bigger voices, you know what I'm saying? And we all
it's
know who
sad.
those are. The bigger voices that seem like they're this big, humongous crowd that spout negativity, because usually people that don't have the same mindfulness are usually the quieter ones because they're okay with life and how you know what I mean, and going along with the flow. It's not until our life is affected by that that usually we become loud ourselves, and
Very sad. Very
when
sad.
society becomes loud, which if you listen carefully in today's society, you're going to see that bigger wave of
It's
louder
coming. It's
voices.
coming. It's here.
It
Let's see.
is. It
Trump
is. Big
connection.
T.
Look, look, I'm a little bit right of center. We'll just say that. I'm a little right of center. I like
That's alright.
reasonable.
We'll
I like,
bleep that out. We'll bleep.
listen, I want Democrats and Republicans to buy the book, and I want us all to be. I'm tired of right side of the aisle and left side of the aisle. We're all
Yeah.
Americans.
You know what? I'm
We're
gonna
all
say this,
Frenchmen.
because
We're all
you brought
Englishmen. We're
something
all
up.
Israelis. We're all Hungarians, whatever the
When we
frick.
brought some
And
right?
go ahead.
There's little
No, I'm just
variations
saying
here in
we're
this.
not.
Yeah. I get you.
Anyway, nobody has the right to kill me or my family. Nobody has the right to say you can't own a radio, for example, which is a big thing in the book. Nobody has the
Mhm.
right to take my dad off or anybody else for slave labor camp for months at a
Yeah.
time with torture and beatings and starvation. And when you've had enough, you escape. So what happens when you escape? You got nowhere to go. You talk about the light at the end of the tunnel. My dad's first escape, probably his
Mhm.
second too. He went from middle of the mountains, middle of nowhere for first escape, which is amazing. That's the one I remember. I mean, balls out. And then the second one was right in front of Nazi headquarters in Budapest on a split
Mm.
second thing. And either way, well, where are you going to go? You got no job, you got no food, you got no place to live. You've got one set of clothing on you, like Papillon. If you remember, I don't know if you remember the movie or the story. Papillon was the great escape artist. My original title for the book was The Hungarian Papillon, but the Hungarian butterfly. But
Mhm.
my co-author talked me out of that because she said, the younger generation's not going to understand the reference, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And the other one was the Sixth Book of Moses, because my dad's Hebrew name was Moses or Moshe, and
Mhm.
so all the miracles he went through. I'm digressing a little bit, but
Right.
those were potential book titles. But we decided not a real enemy, and if you want to know why, I'm happy to tell you. I know we've been
Oh,
talking for a
yes,
while,
I'd love
but
to hear it. No, I'd love to
so
hear it. Go ahead.
not a real enemy was my co-author's idea. Well, the true story of a Hungarian Jewish man's fight for freedom. That's pretty straight up. But not a real enemy was the arrogant communists. The night before my dad's fourth and final escape, He was already established OBGYN. He could have stayed in Hungary and done just fine. And my mom was 13 months away from graduating medical school, if you can believe it. And they were frontliners in the Hungarian Revolution in '56, which not a lot of people know about that war. About 2 weeks, 2.5 weeks, thousands of people killed, thousands of injured, a lot of young people, college kids, very young adults, whatever they could scrape up, guns and this and that. And it was tough. They got squashed pretty quickly. But my dad was a frontliner, and he was doubling. He was an OBGYN. So that's I've probably already mentioned that. He's that's the punchline is he delivered 10,000 babies in the Detroit area after all he had been through, which is real true redemption. It doesn't bring back his parents, but anyway. So the Hungarian
No.
Revolution in '50, it doesn't, but it's a nice, and he loved it, and he no sign of PTSD, and would have worked till the day he died. But needless to say, so after the Hungarian Revolution in '56, mom ran the blood bank. She was a frontliner too. Dad was doubling down as a trauma surgeon and OBGYN. And when the dust settled and they had it, 2 wars, and the communists won, and it was no better for the Jews. The story that we have with Stalin in '53, when parents had an illegal Jewish wedding, that's in there. So they decided to leave, and so the night before they left, my dad by now my dad's risk tolerance is way up, so he sneaks into the medical office, which was kind of ransacked because of the war, between two security guards, and he looks up his file. And the arrogant communists called him not a real enemy, and they described him that way. He's interested in his work. He's not. He's not anti-communist. He didn't fall into what a lot of his colleagues did and buy into it.
Hmm.
He was neutral, like my mom. So they called him not a real enemy. But as she astutely points out, my co-author says he was a real enemy because my mom and dad they loved Mother Hungary, but they hated Nazi Hungary, they hated Communist Hungary, and so the Hungarians lost two good people that would have been good doctors that would have worked 30, 40 years in that country, and I would have been born there if let's say the United States had rescued Hungary rather than the Soviets, for example, right?
Hmm.
We wouldn't even be having
Right.
this conversation. I would have been born and raised in Hungary, maybe a doctor. I don't know. I mean, but I didn't like OBGYN, but my dad loved it. I mean, so, and that, we all have our own specialties, our own interests, but still,
Right.
needless to, so he was a real enemy. So that's the irony. And the theme of it resonates throughout the book. My poor dad on the run all the time. And like I said, there's no light at the end of the tunnel. And so from my perspective, this book wants to talk about that there's more to life than food, shelter, clothing. There's risk, there's giving back to community, there's being good to your neighbors. But for my
Hmm.
dad and my mom, in some cases, my mom's story wasn't as exciting. They did a lot of hiding with her mom and her grandmother, farms and Christian houses and stuff, and a little quieter and very lucky, Anne Frank style. But she was luckier than Anne Frank, obviously. But for my dad, no, it was more arduous. It was more harrowing, and
Hmm.
so that's why I shared the story. But I don't know. But the point is, we have it good in this country, and let's not screw it up.
Yes.
Let's not screw it up. We have the right to vote. We have the right to talk within reason.
Hmm.
We have the right to raise a family and own a TV and a radio, and so food, shelter, clothing. We go beyond that. Give back to the community. Of course, you want to take a vacation, you want a
Hmm.
career, you want to have the American dream. It's out there, and I don't want to sound like some crazy
Oh no,
idealist, but
no,
it's
you're
out
not.
there. But whereas if you're Jew, you're screwed. I mean, like African Americans back in the '60s, for example, '60s and '70s, all that rioting, they weren't treated like the first class. They weren't treated like regular citizens, and in some cases, especially in the South,
Hmm.
and I grew up in Detroit, so my high school was 40% African American. I was one of three Jews in my high school, but I never felt any anti-Semitism. Maybe some of it was people didn't know. They picked on you when you were a freshman or when you were in seventh grade because you're little and dumb and vulnerable, and that happened. But
Hmm.
I never, any slurs that we had. And we had plenty, slurs between. We had Asian. I had Asian American. I still do Asian American, Indian, Hindu. Between
Hmm.
high school, college, med school, plenty of friends all across the board, as did my parents. But any slurs or anything like that, we left it on the football field. We left it on the baseball diamond. We didn't, nobody carried a grudge. Nobody, we didn't bust chops about whether you're African American or Jewish or
I
whatever.
agree.
So that,
And even today, even in today's society, when we've talked about, and I'm going to just talk about this roundabout. I'm going to hopefully try to do that. Anyways, when we talk about your reference of everything like the anti-Semitism and what your grandparents went through in their time, the day and age today, and of course, like I said, we haven't got into 2025, so this is just my hopeful thinking. So bear with me. But the fear about future encampments for immigrants and everything like that. On that spectrum, it scares the crap out of me to be
I
too
don't like
much
it.
like
Yeah,
no,
no,
I don't like it either. In fact, it disgusts me.
no, I don't like it.
And
Well, they talk about
no.
internment, the Japanese Americans that had
Yes.
internments during World War II,
Mhm.
and there was no rhyme or reason for it. Uh,
No.
you know, look, there's a lot of people that are here that are immigrants. I wish they would go through the process. I know who illegals are here. I mean, but they work hard.
Well,
Whether it's the landscaping or cleaning up or car detailing, they work hard. But it'd be nicer if they could buy into the system and not expect free healthcare because healthcare has gotten out of control.
well,
You know,
here's the thing. Here's
pay
the
your
thing, and
taxes.
there was an article on this that I posted, and so forgive me if I can't give you the exact figures because I'm not one of those brains that remembers everything detailed.
I
But,
used to. That's a long time ago.
yeah,
You had to.
I've never been that way, so you're a lot luckier than me.
You had
But
to back in the day.
actually, immigrants have paid taxes. And like I said, I'm just gonna pull a figure out. I think it's in, like, something billion is what they paid. And I could
Okay.
actually if you follow me on Facebook, go back through my feed because I know I posted a link on it, based on how much and mind you, because they're paying into taxes, they don't get the benefits of those tax also thank you very much, Laura in the room, you've met her, $69 billion they paid into, and that goes to Social Security, which they do not get to get. They do not claim it. They put that in taxes. They don't get it. They
Well,
don't get any of
that
the
could change.
benefits.
That should
Yeah.
change. If you go through the
Mhm.
system, whether it's just a green card or you get full citizenship, you
Yeah.
should be entitled to get something back because
Well, you
the
know
government spends so much money, and we all,
ugh,
we talk
well,
about entitlement, and I'm like,
yeah,
I'm 62, I can start collecting Social Security now. But my advisor, who passed away, God bless him. I mean, he said, wait till you're 70. But who knows
yeah,
how if I make it to 70 or if I'm going to be around. But I put my money in. You put your money in. I mean, I've paid my taxes,
right. And
many dollars. But
we could start a whole politic talk, but my point on this was that you brought it up about when we were talking about the healthcare in the beginning about CEO, and bear with me because I'm talking about society. This is going to lead up to society, trust me.
I got you.
um, okay, so when we talk about the CEO's passing, which I don't tell people that this is something to do. I do not proclaim that that's something we should do, but I not personally heartbroken over it, although I don't wish anyone's human loss, okay? But I
I,
think the reason a lot of the majority of Americans join together, and here's the key point, that we join together on this point is because we found a camaraderie between each other as far as healthcare. Because it's ridiculous. Not healthcare itself, but the insurance that covers and says, "Oh, you can't have this because you've already reached." Like, okay, just for take for my instance, this just happened to me. I couldn't get my other inhaler because I've already got one, so I have to wait to the 18th because and I only have 38 puffs left, which is hard for me during the nighttime is when I usually use it. I get up during the night because I can't breathe because laying down affects me more so than
yeah, yeah.
standing up and but,
They,
anyway, so I can't get any more, so I have to
yeah,
ration,
ration
so
out.
tart
Yeah, I
there
got
you go,
you.
there you go.
It's Papillon. You have the rations.
Right,
Rations.
there you go.
The prisoners get
Pronunciation
rations.
is not my friend.
It's not a problem. I knew what you were
Okay.
going to say.
Alright.
Yeah, you got
Okay,
a
so
ration. Same here. I got the same
yes,
issue. I got the
yes.
same.
So I have to ration that out, and my thinking on this is that I see hope in something traumatic, okay? It was traumatic, traumatizing to people on both sides to see someone lose their life as far as the CEO. But what made people see measure on this was the fact that they found a camaraderie as far as the healthcare. And that's where I see this. Now, I'm old enough to know that politics, in a sense, at least back in, I'll just pick a thing out of the hat. Let's say Reagan or Bush's time, okay? In those incidences where you looked at a Democrat and a Republican, And I'm not saying that I'm either or. I'm on the side of whatever helps humanity, the better. Okay.
Fair
So
enough.
usually, typically that's Democrat, but I don't say that I would go that way completely because there are some people that I agree with on another side, but put a pin in that idea.
No worries.
But
I like Kennedy, but I was 1 years
right,
old when he got
right,
assassinated. So
exactly.
that's very sad.
So so when we talk about politics, as far as how I believe that it differs to today's standards, as far as like what we reference to the fears that you have in your book, okay? Back then, as you talk about Reagan or Bush time, to me, it was about the synthetics of legalities as far as the bills. Like, should so much money go here? Should so much go to here? We might differ or badger back in front of the aisles. But those same people, Republican and Democrat, would still go out to eat or have dinner and be able to talk later. You know what I mean? They might differ on the finalities of as far as the vote being passed. But it seems to me, and the biggest fear from even this whole past year is to me, it's bigger, it's more extremist. It seems to be, again, like what I said, the louder voices always seem to be the smaller minority. Do you know what I'm saying? Am I making sense
Absolutely.
on this? So
Absolutely. Too many
so
sheep.
now
Too many sheep.
yes. Okay, so now when I see this healthcare thing, again, it's a traumatic event. I'm not citing that this was good behavior, okay? I'm
No,
not,
no.
okay? I'm not
I knew the
loss
motive.
of life
I knew the
loss of
motive.
life is never yeah, loss
That's
of life is
awful.
never the right way to handle this, but on that retrospect, I see all the comments that come from those kind of posts where people are all like, that we're talking about, well, did he pay his healthcare thing? Did he get, did he all those were coming from a place where people are fed up and frustrated with barely making ends meet, but still having to pay uh,
A
their
ridiculous
premium.
premium
Yes,
to an
yes, their
insurance company
premium.
that's not going to pay
Yes.
for squat.
Yes.
I'm with you
And
on
when
that.
I know that that seems extreme right there, but that little bit of camaraderie to me gives me hope about this country because
I'm with
so
you
many people
completely.
from
Yeah,
yeah.
I'm with you. Well, I don't
So
know. Let's see what the mucky mucks do, but I'm with you. And, as an analog,
I
no,
still think there's something in the works.
we'll see what happens. I
Yeah,
mean,
I still
but there's
think
two
there's
things
something
you
in the
cannot.
works.
We have an aging
Something
population.
that's not
The demographic.
totally come out yet. At least maybe that's my hopeful thinking.
I'm
But
with
I
you.
do
This
believe that
middleman. Yeah, no, I'm with you. The middleman thing is it's been a detractor. It's been a disaster. The middleman. People are
but
making profits off the. Yeah, they knew the healthcare industry was doing very profitable for 20, 30, 50 years.
yeah.
Going back to the 40s and 50s, let's say, and
Mhm.
everybody wanted a piece of the pie. If you couldn't drill oil or
Yeah.
find gold or become an engineer or do why not? I don't know. We could go on and on about that, but
Oh, yeah. There's a lot there.
administration in hospitals. I've had a mistrust for many. That's my next book. I mean, all
Yeah.
the things they don't teach in med school.
Yeah.
That'd be my next. If I ever do that, it'd
Well,
be a great book.
you get ready to write that y you get ready to write that, you come back. We'll talk loads.
Well, there's that. Yeah, there's that. And what was I going to say? The analogy with the book is that what happened 180 years ago is happening now, and even though it's different set of
Yes.
people, different
I
set
c
of, it's the same thing.
yes.
And that,
Yes.
and
I
same with the
agree
healthcare. That's it.
100% with that. I agree
It's the
100% with that
same thing,
analogy. And
and there's
I
no reason
think
for this hate. We can work things out.
yeah. I think 100% that that is really good, and I agree with you 100% on that. Also, what I wanna say is that I think your voice, and this book's voice, and your parents' voice, and your grandparents' voice should have a bigger light to it. I think I'm so very proud to have you here with us. I'm very proud that you have
Appreciate that.
7 more after this to go do,
Yeah,
and
at
if I
least.
can
Yeah,
help
yeah.
yeah, I think that it's good because I think in reference to this type of past, this type of hatred, this type of tragedy as far as human rights and just the common indecency, you know what I mean, that was placed upon people today, yesterday, and hopefully not tomorrow, should have a brighter light on it. And I'm willing to help post out what we need to do that for your book because I think it's immensely I
I
just think
appreciate.
it's so beneficial to the world right now. I really do.
I appreciate it, and it's not a boring book. It's a very
No.
exciting, and it's like it's not, you read about Auschwitz and the concentration camps and people getting shot. Like, I mean, maybe they did him a favor. You get shot right in the ghetto because you say screw you to one of the guards because you don't want to go through everything you're going to go through the next few months, right? So.
Mhm.
But for my dad, he was always on the run, and it's a different perspective. He was young, a young man, so he was helpful, and that's what saved
Mhm.
his life. I mean, because he was actually helpful. Because the elderly, the infirmed, the youth, the little babies. I mean, the stories. It's really a hard part of doing all of this is hearing all these other stories. But that's a part of what I'm doing. But for my dad, it affected a lot of stuff, his family and his own lifestyle, and he finally got into med school, but that was delayed, and this and that and that. And
Mhm.
you just being any nobody has the right to treat somebody like second class. Is it,
No,
you
I
ain't better
agree.
than me. Like you want me to start
Yeah.
talking trash talk. I'm from Detroit. You ain't better than me. You're not even close, man.
Yeah.
I can do my Haitian Jamaican. Listen, man. I can do that because it's my family. My dad
Right.
was a doctor. His dad was a dentist. My mom's grandfather was a rabbi. Like, we're real threats to society. I'm a real.
Yeah.
These people they're delivering babies, and his dad, by the way, did freebies for the less fortunate in his high school, and actually helped get my dad some favors by doing freebies for some of the guards when he was at forced labor camp. A little bit of
Mhm.
cash and freebie dental treatments for their families. It went a long way, and amazing how people can be bribed. I'm not sure how good but no, I mean, but it helped my dad. Anything that would help, and they're just more minor miracles. But like I said, a cat's had 9 lives. My dad had 20. I mean, a miracle after miracle. The way he got into med school, and like I said, the escapes and
I'm I'm extremely grateful that your father had 20 lives because it brought you to us today, and I wanna thank you so much for being with us this evening.
I appreciate the invite. I'm very grateful, and I hope we do another one. If not, please stay in touch
Yes,
with me, and please make sure you share with me when you do post this, so I can also share it. Not
most
a real enemy.
definitely.
That's the guy. Not a real enemy by Robert Wolf
Most
M.D.
most definitely, I think that you and I should do more programs. I think there's a lot of ways we can talk more. Um, I actually think we should outline it because we lose track.
No, it's all right. I like a mix. I like what you. I like the mix. It doesn't get
Oh,
stagnant that
good.
way, right? It doesn't get stagnant. You
Right.
gotta.
No, it
It's like a
doesn't. It
comedy.
doesn't.
It's like a good comedy show that's got two or three lines going. Two or three different stories going. If you just got
Oh,
one story, same with a movie,
speaking
right?
of
If
speaking of lines, I wanna make sure I make note to a few comments in the room, so that I can shine a light on the people in the room. Mr. Dearheart says, "The shoe room at the Holocaust Museum tore me up. It just shows the scale of everything that happened."
it
Um,
does.
he also he also said when we were talking about reference about the past and the future, because when you were mentioning about how even Vietnam isn't brought up in the point, he says it's always about the last war.
No doubt.
So, yeah.
I'm with you,
So,
but
but I
kids are denying 911 now. That never mind
yeah,
denying Pearl
see.
Harbor and the Holocaust. They're denying
And that's
911.
why I think that's why your book is very important to today's society. I think it gives life to not a fictional character that you might see on the screen and you think, "Oh, well, that's just made up." This actually gives life to an actual name and people, and to still have contacts with, their grandchildren and their son here with us tonight. So, I think your book is very valuable, and I think it can be used in so many wonderful ways in the future.
Appreciate that. Now, where are you from? I know you're from the north. You said.
I'm from Ohio. So, when you
Oh
were in
boy,
Michigan
that's another hour discussion. They're blue, but Ohio. I can't believe they beat them this year. But
Yeah.
uh, last year was amazing, but Ohio State's been really dominant the last 10. But back in the 60s
Yeah.
and 70s as a kid, what a great rivalry that was. But Ohio has a huge Hungarian and Eastern European population, and I just don't have
Yes.
an assistant. I want to reach out to Toledo, the JCC there, Cleveland.
Mhm.
I've done a few talks in Michigan, my hometown, and elsewhere, which is great. TV interviews. Ohio is uncharted territory for me, but I would love to do that because a lot of the Eastern Europeans, when they emigrated, not just Hungary, Czechoslovakia, Poland, whatever,
Mhm.
Greeks, that's where they ended up in the Midwest. Of course,
There's
Boston, New
even
York, but.
There's
But
even a large Ukrainian population in. I hope I get this correct. I think it's Pennsylvania.
same category,
Um,
same category.
yeah.
It's the same. They
Mm-hmm.
like the climate. You know, you go to Minnesota, you've got the Norwegians. If you go to Kalamazoo in Western Michigan, you got the Dutch. Of course,
Mm-hmm.
people like to congregate together. And my parents were, like I said, they were their friends were diversified, not just Holocaust survivors, Jewish, Christian, Hindu, African, continental Africa, not just African American, continental Africa,
Mm-hmm.
Indian, Chinese, all that. So and I'm the same way now. And I guess that's one good thing about this book too is I'm reaching out to more people. I'm meeting a lot of great people all over the world, all over the country, and it's such a great experience. And people that care about people, that care about humanity, are the ones that are talking to me, like you.
Mm-hmm.
And
No.
that's my charge now.
Well, you're going to come
I
back.
could
We're going
be
to work
I could
something
be
out. We will.
sounds great.
we will. We'll
Sounds
plan
great.
something out, especially as we go into the summer months. So we're going to
Sounds
work
good. No
something
rush.
out.
No rush.
Okay.
Like you. You're busy.
Well,
I
I
got
want
time.
to.
Pleasure.
That's all right. I'm hopefully send me some links of the podcast and we'll give it a listen as well. The next ones you're on. I want to thank you so much, Robert, for being with us tonight.
Sounds
Um,
good.
I,
Thank
w-
you. And thank you so much. And please send me the link when you release this one too. And
I
so,
will. I will. I'll add it on the pod match, so I'll put it in there in the comments as well. Thank you to
give me
our
a
list.
talk. Thank you. Give me a talk up in Cleveland or go Browns. Browns
There
Lions.
we go.
At least one of
There
these
we
days.
go.
All right.
Well,
Thank
thank
you.
you to our listeners. I want to thank you so much, guys, for every time you tune in. It's a great pleasure of mine to have you with us. Until next time, guys. Bye bye for now.
Thank you.